Look, most people think networking is smiling, shaking hands, adding someone on LinkedIn, and hoping life magically changes. That's why they stay broke. Real networking, the type that elevates your life, your business, your opportunities, is a strategic weapon. The top 1% don't talk to people. They position, they connect, they follow up, and they become unforgettable. Today, I'm giving you the 6 key lessons the top 1% use to build circles that open doors, multiply income, and collapse timelines. If you're tired of being invisible, if you're done watching others get opportunities you know you deserve, then listen closely. Most people wait until life punches them in the face before they start caring about their network. They lose a job and suddenly they remember contacts they ignored for years. Their business slows down and suddenly they want advice from people they barely spoke to. Their project fails and suddenly they want support from a circle they never built. That's the mindset that keeps people stuck. Your network is not something you build when you're desperate. It's something you build when you're strong, when you have momentum, when you don't need anything from anyone. Because the truth is simple, the world responds differently to a person who shows up with value instead of need. When you reach out only when you're struggling, you look like a burden. But when you reach out while you're growing, improving, and building, you show up as an asset. And assets attract opportunity. Look at it this way. Every message you send today is a seed. Every person you check in on is a door waiting to open. Every relationship you nurture is a bridge you're quietly building toward your future. But most people treat relationships like shortcuts instead of investments. They want the harvest without planting a single seed. They want access without contribution. They want support without presence. Building your network before you need it is not just smart, it's strategic. It's the difference between being surrounded by people who can lift you or being surrounded by silence when you fall. You don't rise alone. No champion ever climbed to the top without a circle that sharpened them, but that circle must be built patiently, intentionally, and long before you require its strength. People support those who make their lives easier. They remember consistency, not convenience. If you only show up when you want something, people feel used. But if you show up just to check in, just to congratulate, just to contribute, just to offer value, people feel connected. And that connection is what creates opportunities you could never buy. This is why the strongest networkers never start conversations with requests. They start with presence, they start with contribution. They start with attention, because the moment you genuinely invest in someone else's growth, you place yourself in their mental library of people who matter. And when someone is thinking about who to recommend, who to collaborate with, who to trust, who to call, you move to the top of that list. Timing matters, and the best time to build your network is when you're not under pressure. That's when your interactions are pure. That's when your intentions are clean. That's when people can sense you're not here to take, but to grow together. The easiest time to build relationships is when you don't need anything, and the worst time is when you're desperate. When you build early, you build strength. When you wait, you build excuses. Think about how many opportunities you may have missed because you didn't send that message, didn't follow up, didn't reconnect, didn't nurture the bond. People don't drift apart because of conflict. They drift apart because of silence. Every month you stay disconnected adds distance. Every year adds walls, and sooner or later, you end up needing someone whose number you haven't dialed in years. That's when you realize the price of neglect is always higher than the cost of consistency. Success moves fast, rooms shift, circles evolve. The people you know today might be running companies, building empires, leading movements 5 years from now. The question is, will you be someone they remember or someone they forgot? Will you be part of their circle or just a name they once knew? A powerful network is not built on charm. It's built on longevity. It's built on nurturing relationships like they matter. It's built on staying connected even when there's no reason to. It's built on remembering birthdays, sending updates, celebrating their wins, supporting their lows, checking in without expectation. That's how trust grows. That's how loyalty forms. That's how doors open. Because one day you will need help, everyone does. The strong, the smart, the disciplined, the successful. None of them win alone. When your moment of need arrives, the quality of your network will decide the quality of your outcome. And you can't manufacture a meaningful relationship overnight. You can't rush trust. You can't fake consistency. People can always tell who invested early and who's showing up late. So build now. Build when things are calm. Build when things are good. Build when you're confident. Build when you have time, energy, and clarity. Build before the storm, not during it. Because the people who build early walk into challenges with support, with leverage, with access to minds and opportunities that most people will never experience. Your network is your insurance policy. Your network is your opportunity engine. Your network is your silent advantage. But only if you build it before you need it. Most people enter a room trying to be liked. They soften their voice, shrink their presence, smile too much, agree too quickly, and hope that being friendly will somehow earn them respect. But that's not how the world works. Respect isn't given because you're nice. Respect is given because you're valuable. Authority first, friendship later. That's the rule the winners play by, and it's the rule the unsuccessful avoid because it forces them to confront their weaknesses. When you lead with friendliness, you come across as convenient. When you lead with authority, you come across as someone worth knowing. People trust strength, not softness. People follow clarity, not comfort. And people connect with those who can elevate their life, their thinking, or their results, not those who simply want to be accepted. This is where most people sabotage themselves without realizing it. They assume being approachable is their advantage, but in reality, it makes them forgettable, because here's the truth, every room is full of friendly people. What's rare is someone who walks in with presence. Someone whose energy communicates competence before they even open their mouth. Someone who doesn't need validation to anchor their identity. That's who people remember, that's who people follow, that's who people want to be around. Authority is not arrogance, authority is clarity. Authority is knowing who you are, what you bring, and what you stand for. It's the confidence that comes from skill, preparation, and discipline. When you speak with authority, people listen differently. They respect you before they even know you. You position yourself as someone with standards, someone with backbone, someone with direction, and that foundation makes every connection stronger. The problem is that most people reverse the order. They chase friendship first and hope authority will develop later, but once someone sees you as the friendly, harmless person, it's hard for them to ever see you as a leader. You set the frame the moment you enter the relationship. And once a frame is set, it rarely changes. So the question becomes, do you want to be seen as valuable or as likable? Because the world gives two completely different rewards. When you lead with authority, the dynamic changes. People take you more seriously. Conversations shift from surface to substance. They ask better questions. They share meaningful information. They consider your time more carefully. People treat you based on the standards you present. And when you present authority, you are treated with respect from the very beginning. Friendship built on authority becomes stronger. Why? Because it's built on mutual respect, not convenience. When someone values your mind, your consistency, your discipline, they don't use you, they want to grow with you. Friendship born from authority lasts longer because it's built on something real. Friendship born from friendliness dies the moment they don't need you. This is especially true in professional circles. If you want high-level people in your network, you can't enter the room trying to impress them with kindness. They've met thousands of kind people. What they haven't met is someone who communicates with precision. Someone who shows competence without flexing. Someone who listens with intent. Someone whose confidence is quiet, not loud. Authority is not about speaking more. Authority is about speaking with weight. Every sentence has purpose. Every opinion has foundation. Every interaction has intention. You don't chase attention. Your presence commands it. You don't chase validation. Your results defend you. You don't chase friendships. Alignment creates them naturally. When you build relationships from a place of authority, the right people gravitate toward you. People who value growth, people who value strength, people who value discipline. These are the people who elevate your life. These are the people who open doors. These are the people who sharpen your thinking, but you must earn that level of connection by presenting yourself as someone who brings value to the table, not someone who's hoping to sit at the table. Ask yourself, when you walk into a room, what frame do you set? Do people see someone trying to be popular or someone who already owns their space? Because the world responds based on the identity you project. Authority first means you establish your standard before forming the relationship. Friendship later means the bond grows naturally once respect is established. You don't lower your voice to fit in. You don't bend your backbone to be accepted. You don't betray your values to seem easy to like. You walk in as someone who knows themselves, someone who knows their worth, someone who carries themselves with intention. Because when authority is your foundation, friendship becomes a choice, not a strategy. And the relationships you build from that place will take you further than any forced friendliness ever could. Most people think networking is about the first impression. They obsess over that moment, the handshake, the introduction, the quick conversation, and they assume that's where relationships are built. But the people who truly win in life understand something far more powerful. The follow-up is where everything happens. The follow-up is the real superpower. The follow-up is the bridge between meeting someone and mattering to them, and this is exactly where 99% of people fail. Anyone can introduce themselves, anyone can send a message once. Anyone can show excitement in the moment, but very few people have the discipline to maintain the connection after the moment has passed. That's why the top performers stand out so easily. They do the one thing most people are too lazy, too distracted, or too insecure to do. They show up again. Follow-up is a test. It reveals your commitment, your seriousness, your consistency. It shows whether you're interested in building a relationship or you were just excited in the moment. Strong people follow up because they understand that relationships aren't built on introductions. They're built on reminders. Busy people forget you. Life moves quickly. You are one conversation among hundreds they've had. But when you follow up, you shift from someone they met to someone they remember. Here's the part most people never realize. A follow-up doesn't need to be fancy. It doesn't need to be long. It doesn't need to be perfectly crafted. It just needs to send a message. I'm still here. I value the connection. I take this seriously. That simple act puts you in a different category than everyone else who disappeared the moment the conversation ended. Think about two types of people. The first one meets someone, has a great exchange, gets motivated, then disappears. That person is forgotten by the next morning. The second one meets someone and 2 days later sends a quick note, "Great meeting you. Here's something I thought you'd appreciate." That person stays on the radar. That person becomes memorable. That person separates themselves without trying to impress, just by showing consistency. Consistency is what earns trust. Trust is what earns access. And access is what creates opportunities. People fail to follow up for one reason: fear. Fear of bothering someone, fear of being ignored, fear of seeming needy. But that fear is a trap, because the people you're afraid to follow up with are the same people who respect it the most. High-value individuals understand the importance of consistency. They understand commitment. They understand effort. They understand that the person who follows up is the person capable of long-term success. They see themselves in that discipline. If someone is offended by a respectful follow-up, that's not a person you should be building a network with anyway, but the majority will appreciate it. Even if they don't respond immediately, they register your presence. They notice that you're not like everyone else. The follow-up builds familiarity, and familiarity builds comfort, and comfort builds connection. Think about how many doors you've unintentionally closed simply because you didn't reach out again. Opportunities that could have changed your life drifted away quietly, not because they weren't meant for you, but because you didn't stay visible long enough for them to land. People blame fate, they blame luck. But most of the time, the loss happened because they didn't send one message, make one call, or reconnect one more time. Follow-up is not pestering. Follow-up is leadership. It shows initiative. It shows reliability. It shows that you can be counted on, and people want to work with those who demonstrate that level of consistency without being chased. The strongest relationships in your life right now exist because someone followed up. Maybe it was you, maybe it was them, but without that extra step, your life would be missing people who matter deeply today. That's the proof, that's the pattern, that's the lesson. Follow up because it keeps you in their mind. Follow up because it strengthens the bond. Follow up because it shows character. Follow up because it gives momentum to the relationship. And follow up because it's the difference between being forgotten and being chosen. Your ability to follow up is not just a habit. It's leverage. It's an advantage that compounds. It turns acquaintances into allies, contacts into collaborators, introductions into opportunities. This single discipline can elevate your entire network and your entire life without needing charisma, money, or connections. Most people will never understand how powerful this is. They will keep wondering why they aren't getting callbacks, referrals, opportunities. They will keep thinking they need to meet more people, when the truth is, they need to reconnect with the ones they've already met. If you want to stand out, if you want to build a circle that changes your trajectory, if you want to access rooms others never reach, then master the one skill most people ignore: follow up again and again. and again. That's the real superpower. Most people spend their entire lives trying to get access the wrong way. They beg for attention, beg for opportunities, beg for someone to open a door for them, never realizing that the moment you start begging, you lose power. You lose respect, you lose leverage. The world does not reward desperation. The world rewards value. Access is earned through what you bring, not what you want. Look around. The people who get invited into powerful rooms aren't the ones chasing everybody. They're the ones who solved a problem. They're the ones who made someone's life easier. They're the ones who created results. They're the ones who became useful. When you are useful, people want you near. When you're needy, people want distance. This is where most people misunderstand networking. They think being early, friendly, and available is enough. It's not enough. It's basic. Value is the currency of access. If you bring something of substance, skills, clarity, perspective, solutions, you become someone people want in their circle. Because every high-level person is asking one question when you enter their world: how does this person make my life better? If the answer is unclear, doors stay closed. If the answer is obvious, doors open automatically. People don't say this out loud, but it's how the world works. Everyone is busy. Everyone has limited mental bandwidth. Everyone is protecting their time. That means a connection only becomes meaningful when there is mutual benefit, not one-sided neediness, not emotional pressure. Value doesn't mean you have to be perfect. It doesn't mean you need millions of followers or a giant business. It means you bring something clear and consistent, something that elevates conversations instead of draining them, something that shows you've done the internal work. It means when you show up, people can feel the difference in your presence, your awareness, your discipline. Most people want access without building themselves first. They want to sit with winners while thinking like amateurs. They want to meet high-level individuals while offering nothing but small talk. They want to be welcomed into elevated spaces without doing the work required to belong there. That's the mindset that keeps them outside the door. If you want to enter powerful rooms, you must first become the person those rooms actually need. You must build competence. You must refine your communication. You must be able to see problems and offer solutions. You must understand how to provide value without expecting anything in return. The moment you stop asking, what can I get, and start asking, what can I contribute, your entire network begins to transform. This is why confidence matters. This is why clarity matters. This is why discipline matters. These traits are rare. When you carry them, people feel it immediately. You don't need to beg because your presence already proves your worth. That's how the top performers operate. They're not asking for a chance. They're offering value so compelling that people want a relationship with them. When you shift your mindset from need to value, everything changes. The dynamic flips. Instead of chasing people, you attract them. Instead of waiting for opportunities, you create them. Instead of trying to convince others to give you a seat, you make your skill set valuable enough that they notice you without you saying a word. Desperation makes people avoid you. Value makes people search for you. People can sense the difference instantly. When someone approaches with need, their energy feels heavy. Their requests feel like obligations. But when someone approaches with value, their presence feels like a benefit. Their energy feels helpful. People naturally lean toward them. If you want access, stop trying to be impressive and start trying to be useful. Make yourself the solution. Make yourself the person who brings clarity, not confusion. Make yourself the person who elevates the room, not the one who diminishes it. That's where real influence comes from. Access is not a gift. Access is a reward, and every reward has a requirement. Before you expect others to open doors for you, ask yourself a harder question. Why would they? If you can answer that with honesty and strength, you're ready. If not, build yourself until you can. Your identity must match the rooms you want to enter. Your value must match the opportunities you're seeking. High-level spaces operate on contribution. The more value you bring, the more access you gain. And once you have real value, you never need to beg, because the truth is simple. When you become valuable, you become sought after. People invite you. People call you. People refer you. People recommend you. Because associating with you becomes beneficial to them. That's the shift most people never make. But once you do, your network, your opportunities, and your future expand in ways begging could never achieve. Access comes from value, not desire, not hope, not need. Value is the key. Value is the leverage. Value is the real gateway. Build yourself until people want you and the doors will open on their own. Your circle is either building you or breaking you, sharpening you or dulling you, pulling you higher or holding you down. There is no neutral influence in your life. Every conversation you entertain, every person you consistently spend time with, every mind you allow near your goals, each one is shaping your ceiling. People don't realize this until it's too late. They wake up years later wondering why they're still stuck, still thinking small, still repeating the same habits, not realizing their environment designed their limitations long before their effort ever had a chance. You can have ambition, but if your circle lacks vision, your ambition will shrink to match theirs. You can have discipline, but if your circle normalizes excuses, your discipline will erode. You can have dreams, but if your circle mocks growth, you'll start silencing your own potential just to fit in. Humans adapt to their surroundings more than they admit. The strongest mindset becomes weak in the wrong environment. The average mindset becomes unstoppable in the right one. Your circle is a mirror. Look at who you spend the most time with and you'll see your future. Look at their habits and you'll see your standards. Look at their values and you'll see your own trajectory. If the people around you fear change, you will too. If the people around you settle, you will too. If the people around you blame everything except themselves, you'll start believing that same story. And that story becomes your ceiling. Most people know their circle is limiting them, but they stay because comfort feels safe. Familiarity feels easier. Being the strongest person in a weak circle makes them feel important. But that importance is an illusion. You can't grow when you're surrounded by people you have to lower yourself to be around. You can't elevate when your environment fights elevation. You can't become your highest self when your circle keeps you anchored to your lowest patterns. The truth is simple. You rise to the level of your surroundings. If you want to break through your ceiling, you must break away from the people who built it. Not out of anger, not out of ego, out of self-respect. Because your future is too important to hand over to people who don't take their own future seriously. High-level individuals understand this deeply. They curate their environment with intention. They choose who they allow into their circle based on standards, not emotion. They know energy is contagious and they refuse to catch the wrong kind. They seek out people who challenge them, who sharpen them, who stretch their thinking, who introduce new perspectives, who normalize excellence, who remind them that growth is the baseline, not the exception. When you get around people like that, something inside you shifts. Your excuses feel silly, your laziness feels out of place, your small goals start expanding, you stop settling, you stop tolerating weak habits. You stop entertaining anything that doesn't align with who you want to become. The right circle doesn't let you shrink, it demands that you rise. The problem is that most people wait for the perfect circle to find them. They hope the right people will just appear, but powerful circles are closed, they're protected, they're earned. You don't get invited into them by chance, you get invited by becoming someone worthy of being in that environment. That means building yourself first, developing character, developing discipline, developing competence, becoming a person whose presence adds value everywhere they go. Once you evolve, your circle has no choice but to evolve with you, or lose access to you. Growth is a natural filter. As you level up, the people who don't want to rise will quietly drift away because they can no longer relate to the standards you live by, and that's exactly how it should be. You don't need to announce it, you don't need to explain it, you don't need to apologize for it. You simply outgrow the spaces that keep you small. Your ceiling breaks the moment your circle expands beyond your current identity. When you surround yourself with people who think bigger, operate cleaner, move faster, and aim higher, you start absorbing their momentum. You stop thinking in terms of limitations. You start thinking in terms of possibilities. You stop playing for survival, you start playing for impact. The people in your life are either fuel or friction. They either speed you up or slow you down. They either stretch your mind or suffocate it. And your future will always reflect the direction of your dominant influences. If you want a higher ceiling, you need a higher circle. A circle that respects growth, a circle that demands effort, a circle that normalizes excellence. A circle that won't let you quit on yourself, a circle that sees your potential clearly and keeps you accountable to it daily. Your circle determines your ceiling. Choose wisely, because your future depends on it. Listen. Your future is not shaped by what you know, it's shaped by who knows you, and what they know you for. You don't need millions of followers, you don't need perfect charisma, you don't need to be the loudest person in the room. You just need to become the person whose presence adds value, creates clarity, and solves problems. When you do that, Doors open, opportunities multiply, and your life changes. Network like the top 1%. And you won't have to chase success. Success will start chasing you.